In 1994, two brothers are sleeping in the forest, but they hear a strange voice coming from outside. One of them gets a sharp knife and goes to see what is happening, but something pulls him outside. Then, his brother goes out and runs into the forest to save him, but he finds that they are huge and strange creatures called Mogadorian. They catch one of the brothers and pull his chain from him, then kill him with a knife, and the young man turns to dust. On the other hand, John is swimming with his friends. They are very happy, and then go back to the beach. In the evening, John and his girlfriend Nicole go down into the sea, but suddenly John is pulled under the water, and his leg begins to light up. When Nicole sees this, she runs to tell people on the beach that there is a monster in the sea. The next morning, John wakes up and finds himself sleeping alone on the beach. He looks at the third mark on his leg, which was lit up after killing the young man the night before. Meanwhile, someone named Henry comes to John, who is supposed to be his father. So, John tells him that number 3 died because circle number 3 appeared, and Henry asks him if anyone else saw what happened, but John doesn't answer him because he isn't conscious. Then, they go home and burn all his friends' photos that are on the walls. After that, Henry takes John with him in the car, and they move to a new city. On the way, John talks about the most difficult thing in his life, which is leaving his friends after knowing his truth. Also, he says he's from another world and not from Earth. On top of that, everyone thinks Henry is his real father. But Henry is nothing more than a warrior from his same world, and only protects John. Meantime, John talks about the marks on his leg. The first one, when he was 9 years old, and at that time he made sure that the Mogadorian came to the earth. But the second mark appeared when number 2 died and John was 12 years old. As for the third one, it lit up yesterday when number 3 died, and it means that John is number 4. After that, John and Henry go to a new home, and there, Henry gives John a new ID as John Smith. Then, he warns John, telling him that he won't join a school or make friends, and tells him it's better to stay at home. Meanwhile, John tells Henry that he saw number 3 yesterday, and he felt the knife that stabbed and killed him. While John gets bags from the car, there is one of the Mogadorian is hidden by a lizard, and he is going to the house to spy on them. As soon as they talk again to each other, they hear a voice coming from outside, and they go out to see what it is. John finds a small dog sitting under a tree in the rain, and they take him in to keep him with them, especially since he doesn't have any friends anymore. On the other hand, number 6 in her house, and her situation is also similar to John. She collects her needs from her house, and sets fire to the house. Then, she leaves the house. After a while, John is getting ready to go to school, but Henry doesn't agree, because he is still worried about him. So, John tries to convince him to let him go. Henry says okay, but providing that he'll call him every hour to check on him, or he makes him study at home. John agrees, and goes to school with his new ID John Smith. But the dog that he found yesterday is watching him, without John noticing that. At that time, John submits a school enrollment application to the employee, and waits in her office for a while. Meanwhile, a girl named Sarah is sitting with the principal of the school in his office. Sarah tries to take the camera that they had taken from her, because she took a photo of her teacher during class without permission. Then, the employee gives John the class schedule, and when Sarah goes out of the principal's office, the employee asks her to show John his closet. So, Sarah takes him to his closet, and he thanks her. After that, someone named Mark comes with his friends, and they make fun of John. By the way, Mark and his friends are the bullies in the school. Another student named Sam comes next to John to put his bag in the closet, but Mark and his friends make fun of him too, and although John notices what has happened, he does nothing. After that, John attends classes that day, and takes a break to eat, but he doesn't want to talk to any colleagues, because Henry warned him not to talk to anyone. Once again, John sees Mark and his friends throw the ball at Sam, and he falls to the ground, but John goes to help him, then takes the ball and throws it hard at the bullies. The ball hurts one of Mark's friends, and he falls to the ground. At this time, Sarah notices what happened, and she takes some photos with her camera, then posts them on her profile. But Henry deletes them, and orders John not to make friends, if he wants to be safe. so John is forced to be silent. After that, the Mogadorian arrives at the beach where John was, and they find out that he is still alive. The next day, John is at school, attending a class, but his hands light up, and he no longer knows what to do. So, he goes running and leaves the class, to hide in a room far from them. Meanwhile, Henry comes to the room quickly. He tells John that the condition he is in is called inheritance, because his father worked in the lorry guard, and John inherited this power from him. Also, he says that he is the only one of the Super 9 who has this power in his hands. After that, John and Henry come home, and Henry tells him that his strength and speed increase more, and he has to control them well. Then, John enters his room to test the strength of his hands, and goes outside the house to test it more. John throws a stone into the sky, and it penetrates the Earth's atmosphere with its force. While he is testing his speed in running and jumping, the dog is watching him without knowing that. Meanwhile, one of the Mogadorians buys frozen turkeys. Then, he goes to a cargo carrying wild animals inside, and starts eating them. At this time, John is standing before a store, and he is waiting for Sarah to come out. They walk together, and get to know each other. So, he knows from her that photography is her whole life. They find out that Sam's stepfather bothers her all the time, and perhaps that is why he is oppressed and weak. John and Sarah continue walking together, until they arrive at her home, and she invites him to have dinner with her family. John gets to know Sarah's family, and he is very happy with them, because he doesn't have a family. Then, Sarah takes him to her room, and looks at the pictures she took throughout her life. He knows from her pictures that she wants to travel all over the country, but she tells him that staying at home is better than traveling. At this time, he hears the sound of his dog barking, so he says sorry and leaves with his dog. But Mark is sitting in his car before Sarah's house watching John. The next day, John goes to school, but Sam tells him to take care, because the whole school knows what happened to him yesterday. So, John tells him that this is just a trick with the light, but Sam tells him to be careful, because Mark loves Sarah and doesn't allow anyone to get close to her. Then, John and Sam open their closet, but a sticky red substance is thrown on their face, and they get very annoyed. It is clear that Mark and his friends are the ones who did this. In that moment, Sam goes to attack Mark, but Mark attacks him and is about to hit him. Then, John intervenes quickly, but he doesn't want to harm him or use his strength. After that, they go into the bathroom to clean themselves of this substance, and John notices that Sam is cleaning up a photo of him with someone else. Then, Sam tells him that this is his real father, and that he spent all his life while looking for aliens. At that time, people thought he was crazy. Meanwhile, Henry is searching on the internet for Sam's father, and finding out where he used to work. So, Henry goes to the factory, and this is where Sam's father's old job was. At this time, the ground breaks under Henry while he is walking. He finds a small hole, and inside it is a stone with a blue substance that looks strange. So, he takes it with him to analyze it and to know what it is. In the evening, John goes to a party with Sarah. He tells her that Mark warned him not to get close to her, but Sarah tells him that she broke up with Mark a long time ago, after he gave her a bad reputation in the school, and unfortunately, everyone believed him. Then, Sarah takes him to the horror house, but suddenly, Mark and his friends attack them, and they try to kidnap Sarah. So, John beats them with his strength, but Mark manages to kidnap Sarah. Then, John starts looking for her, until he finds one of Mark's friends, and beats him to know where Sarah is. By the way, Sam sees everything that happened. He is surprised by John's strength, and he makes sure that he isn't a human. On the other hand, John goes to Mark to save Sarah, and he beats Mark, then takes Sarah to her home. There, John confesses to her that he loves her and leaves. After that, Sam sends a message to John asking him about what happened in the horror house. Sam tells him that he spent his childhood searching for aliens, and asks John to tell him the truth to make sure that his father wasn't crazy. Meantime, John tells him that his father is right, and Sam becomes so happy. Then, John tells him that he found his father's car at the Mexican border, and he is sure that aliens kidnapped him. So, he didn't leave them as all people say. John then asks him to keep this matter a secret between them, because he is in danger, and the Mogadorians are looking for him to kill him. The next day, Mark's father goes to John. He works as a police officer, and asks John if he knows anything about what happened in the horror house. Because Mark and some people got hurt, and Mark doesn't want to talk to anyone. But John says that he was busy with Sarah, and didn't care about anything else. After that, Henry shows a video of John with Nicole when his legs were lightened that night, and tells John that the Mogadorians will arrive soon. So, Henry orders him to leave quickly. But John fights with Henry, and says that he won't go anywhere again. Then, John goes outside the house, and Henry goes out after him. But John uses his strength and pushes Henry away from him. Henry then manages to stop John, and tells him that he saved him all his life, but everything will be destroyed because of Sarah. John tells him that he tries to forget her, but he can't. Meanwhile, girl number 6 is in the midst of a group of satellites, and watches John's video in the water, then smiles because she makes sure that he is still alive. The next day in the morning, John wakes up, but he doesn't find Henry at home, so he calls him on his mobile phone, but someone answers, saying he has to come to a specific address if he wants Henry back. Then, John calls Sam to take him to this address, and they go to the address that Henry is in, but John gets down of the car alone, and asks Sam to go to his house. Afterward, John goes to the house to watch it from the outside, but finds Sam behind him, and he doesn't want to leave him alone. They then see someone locking the door of the house, and taking his car. So, John asks Sam to go after this man, and sends him a message if he comes back here. Sam then goes after the man, and John enters the house and finds Henry's knife. He looks for him in the whole house, until he finds him in the basement. Suddenly, someone attacks John, but John beats him, and knows from Henry that the Mogadorians are coming. At that moment, the man who Sam went after him entered, and he threatens Sam with a gun. When Henry sees Sam, he knows that he is Malcolm's son, but John manages to beat this man, and knows that the Mogadorians are looking for him. When they leave the house, one of the Mogadorians attacks them. Henry tries to disrupt him, so that John can escape. Meantime, the Mogadorians attack John and Sam. Although Henry tries to save John, he is injured and about to die. Meanwhile, he gives John the blue stone, and tells him that it will get you to the other 5. Also, Henry says that they must be together to confront the Mogadorian, and then he dies. After that, the police take the equipment and computer, because they accuse him and Henry of terrorism. In the car, Sam sees the blue stone with John, and tells him that he has the second part of the stone, because he stole it from his father a long time ago. So, John asks him to bring it to him, and leaves. Then, he goes to look for Sarah at the party. He finds her, and tells her that he comes to say goodbye to her. But the police come to the place of this party, and they manage to escape. At the same time, Mark and his father see John, but they meet the Mogadorian on their way. So, they get rid of his father, and take Mark with them to show them where John is. Meanwhile, John and Sarah are hiding inside the school, and they start developing photographs that are on Sarah's camera. After a while, the Mogadorians arrive at the school, and they surround it. Sam waits for them outside the school, and warns John that they are surrounded by those strangers. So, John looks at them from the window, and finds them with Mark. But John takes Sarah and Tree to escape again. But here, girl number 6 appears and begins to help them, and tells John that the one who was protecting her was killed by the Mogadorians too. They start trying to get out of the school to Sam's car, but suddenly, they find a group of monsters leaving the Mogadorians' car. Within seconds, John's dog turns into a monster. So, Sam runs away from it, and warns John of the monsters. But before John asks him about the shape of these monsters, he finds the Mogadorian attacking them from the windows. One monster starts running after John, and it is really too strong for him. Number 6 is running out of energy too, and asks John to give her energy using the power of his hands. John gives her energy, and she returns to what it was and better, and the two of them confront the Mogadorians and their monsters. At that time, John's dog attacks the monsters and kills them. The dog then helps John like Henry, and gets back to normal again. As they go out, they meet another monster that attacks them, and the rest of the Mogadorians wait for them outside. So, Sam and Sarah get scared, and they go back to hide again. But John and number 6 start confronting them, and they get rid of more than one of them. Then, the monster manages to kidnap number 6. So, John starts hitting him with the force of his hands, and begins to focus his thermal power on the bullets that the Mogadorians use to explode the whole place. Meanwhile, number 6 kills the monster and comes back to save John, but the whole place explodes, and they are completely rid of the strangers. In the morning, John reunites with his friends. Sam gets half of the second stone, and they collect the two together, so the stone goes completely destroyed. After some moments, Mark arrives and gives John a mystery box. This box belongs to Henry, because the police took it from his house. Now, John can reach the rest of the 4 superheroes, and unite with each other. But before John walks, he promises Sarah that he will come back to her again. His dog then appears, but he is injured. So, John takes him, and he starts a new chapter in his life. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next video.
Back in my bag and I gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in over